Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me. And I've gone through your last classes, what you've been looking at in terms of Manolo's. Manolo, I think he's told you we are his friends call him Manolo, so I might go from Manuel to Manolo sometimes. And looked into the maps. I met Manolo around more than 5 years ago in Boston, which is funny because he's from Murcia, lived in Valencia for many years. I work in Murcia now, living in Valencia, but we ended up meeting there. And we met while this theory was being thought of, while he was thinking of writing a book, when the map was called a matrix, before being called a map. So I hope my experience helps you today. So, this is the structure of today's session. We're going to set the scene, and then you are business students, so we're going to talk business, right? We're going to get into the substance of what this class is about today. Now, I like to start with what's the goal? What's the goal of today? How can we summarize today's class in one sentence? I want to use my experience to help you revisit your motivations map and accompany you on the next step. The third D, decision making, that Manuel will tell you about in the coming weeks. Now, I think being now all pretty young, but we've all seen or like, I'm a fan of Star Wars, and this image, the Jedi Masters, reminds me always of my mentors, okay? So the people that teach me how to, I like to describe a mentor as someone who's got something I don't have and I want. So you have different mentors for different things. And in this case, I wanted to use this image to share with you something that a manager that I used to have in my current company used to say: measure, record, analyze, action. And this is a very good advice that when talking to Manuel, we actually realized that it's completely in line with what you're doing today, which is the 3 Ds. As you can see, measure and analyze, we can call it, measure and record, we can summarize it as description, analyze, diagnose, synonyms, and action, decision making. So this is the main focus of today, and it's all going to be around my story. Who am I? What have I done? This is me. I love climbing. I started climbing around more than 3 years ago. It's in a street boulder in San Marino. It was a lot of fun. And this is also to show that I'm just a normal guy. I like doing fun stuff besides dressing posh for a class in university, you know. And a couple of things about myself. My name is Pablo. I'm 27 years old. I was born and raised in Valencia until I was 18. I did 1 year of design engineering in the UPV, the Polytechnic University, and then moved to Boston to study the same, industrial design. I'm a Catholic. I did an internship at Hasbro, the big toy company in the world headquarters, where I had the amazing opportunity to meet with Hasbro's CEO at the time, who recently passed away, Brian Bolner, another one of, for a short time, mentor. I've had the opportunity to live in Rotterdam for 6 months with different projects. I was an artist assistant. I helped organize philanthropy events with big family businesses around Europe. I've interned at Batlle Group, which is a design study in Barcelona they work with big packaging brands. You might know Colacao or Danone. I've lived in Italy. I've traveled, and I met Manuel in Boston as well during my studies. So done a lot of things. I started working in Blend Hub 3 years ago, and I started working with this motivations map with Manolo around 5 years ago, at least in conversations, and then little by little started becoming concrete material. And you may ask, so what? Okay, Pablo, you've traveled, yes, you're a cool job, you like doing this, doing that, you've lived in different countries. I also happen to get distracted with a lot of tasks. I like starting many things and having trouble finishing one, which talks about temperament, something that I think in this class you'll be looking at. I like giving energy. I'm of a sanguine choleric temperament. We're not going to get into this, but this talks about also where are my personality or character falls in terms of I sometimes tend to treat people then as resources in a professional environment where I don't see people, I just see tools for achieving things, right? And I think this says then what I said, I'm just a normal guy with my story. We all have our story that in many ways we didn't choose, where we were born, the accidents, surprises that life teaches us. I have my passions, we all do, we all have our hobbies, and it's part of what we do, it's part of what gives us energy, and I think it's important to know it. I have my defects, my virtues, but overall I fight for being happy. And I think in the end of the day, it's what this map is about. It's a pursuit of happiness. And happiness is way bigger than what we sometimes think. Now, you study business, and in the future you'll probably start, if you haven't already, studying what's known as key performance indicators, right? KPIs. And one of the big questions is, what is the most sold product in my company, right? How can you measure what are the top sales? And my question today is, what is the society's most sold product? Is it a treadmill? Now with COVID that people couldn't go out and then started buying this to run in their house. Almost. It's very similar. It looks like a treadmill because you keep running, but you never move forward. Study hard, work hard, climb up, right? Scale up, play hard, and then we end up in something like this, right? This is sometimes what we're fed from society, what we think we need to buy, because it's what we see on TV, what we hear people say or show. And it's a summary of the treadmill. Play harder, work harder, climb faster, right? And we actually stay on the same place, looking for something that is not inside this wheel. Society's most sold product is short-sighted. It's not the whole picture. It looks something like this. Maybe you understand this shape already. Let's leave it there, because I want to remind ourselves that deep inside, when we're running in that treadmill, or like a hamster in the never-ending wheel, something tells us differently. Something tells us after that great weekend, going partying, or traveling around, meeting people, getting respect from society, right? Being someone, getting a CV or curriculum, having great jobs, and I'm aiming for becoming CEO, changing the world. And deep inside, I felt it. We find that it's not all. We are, and I want to say here that when we talk description, diagnose, decision, it's very reason-based, right? Structure, order, let's define, let's make an analysis, let's then project management our lives. And well, we're more than reason. I think you know that. We're also feelings. We have a heart, a soul, a spirit. Let's looking for something. And that doesn't mean we need to ignore our feelings. However, I believe we need to keep ourselves from becoming sentimental. As in, having a heart and the feelings is great, and we need to look at them and understand them, accept them, and then decide, which also talks about reason and willpower. So you'll realize that this is society's most sold product. Useful goods, pleasant goods, right? Received from outside, acquired by myself. And it's a selfish-centered product. If you've read Manuel's book, and well, you've gone through the classes, and I'm aware you've technically gone through all the chapters, you find out that we cannot deny the fact that this is short-sighted. I'm not saying we don't need to look at this, it's part of reality. I'm saying it's not all of it. And hopefully today, with a bit of my story, I can show you my experience of how I realized, or how I fight today, because I haven't solved life's equation and the pursuit of happiness. I'm not in nirvana, right? Thinking, now that I'm up here, like, well, Pablo has, we say in Spanish, finished the game, right? The video game. So, what can we do, Pablo? Okay, you say society is short-sighted and play hard and work hard is not enough. Well, what do you suggest then? Because I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my work and my play and my climbing, so I don't have an answer to that. If you're happy with society's product, you can live like that the rest of your life. Now, my experience, my heart, has taught me that there is way more. And when you start seeing it, this makes me think of Plato's cavern allegory. I think that's what it's called in English, right? Plato says that we are tied in a cave looking at shadows, but once you look at reality, you don't want to go back inside. So I think in a way, the theory of opening up the map of what motivates us is going out of this cave, we could say. So I suggest that we stop. I've always been very ambitious. When I was a kid, you want to change the world, you get a lot of energy and you want to travel, you want to meet new people, you want to be involved and recognized and use people to build your recognition, your reputation. And you find out, and it's very difficult, especially in today's environment, to stop. And I encourage you today, and during these exercises of describing, diagnosing yourself, making decisions, stop, relax. No rush, because we're not Superman or Superwoman, or at least I'm not. And we'll realize that by hitting ourselves against the wall when we think we're flying. But it's fine, we're all like this. So I encourage you, I say this to myself a lot. Take it easy, let's calm down. So, this is me, I'm done with school. I graduated in Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston, a city with more than 100 universities, and I'm one in the humble ones. And I was looking for a job. These are my siblings, by the way. I'm the oldest of 5. We're 4 boys and a girl. And, well, I'm very proud of them. And I was looking for something I remember when I finished school, I felt like I could be the CEO of a company, you know? And I didn't want to take the jobs that were not high responsibilities and I'm telling people what to do, you know, like wanting to be an orchestra conductor from 0 to 100 on one day. I had worked for unpaid internships. I did work for paid internships as well. But I remember I was not feeling completely fulfilled. I was having trouble with self-esteem, with valuing myself, what do I deserve? And also not knowing some aspects of my life. Because I think we know ourselves pretty okay in terms of what sports do I like, what team do I follow, if you play football, what TV show do you like, what's your family like, where do you come from. But let's dig deeper inside, and I think this is what the map is about as well. We'll see it later. And I remember sitting down with Manuel and talking about the motivations map. So he suggested me to start filling it in. We just had an Excel sheet, I remember, and we started having some sessions on, okay, Pablo, so what are you? What motivates you on the different dimensions of life? And now I'm going to go directly into the full map. So this is how I summarize the 3Ds: description, diagnose, and decision making. But before we start, I want to remind you and myself of this. Theory is not the end of it. And the end not as the finish line, but meaning once you have theory, this happened to me a lot. Once I knew the book or the map or all the different types of good, all the different actions I could do, then I thought I had it. Okay, I've already found happiness formula. I have it, that's it. This is the means towards the end. And I say this because sometimes, in my case, I feel like when I stand up here in front of you, I'm telling you about all the theories, all what I've done, all of the different dimensions of life and the virtues and the types of good, that this is it, that once you know this by heart, that you figured everything out. And it's not true. So let's start with the first one. Description. Describe, and I want to add now, today, a tip, and that tip is a virtue that's helping me a lot go through these steps. And when I say describe with patience, and this is why I have the hourglass here, because you think, well, description, Pablo, what does that have to do? Well, we said description is also measure and record, and an hourglass is a way of measuring time, and patience talks about time as well. So I remember when I started filling in all the maps, everything that what we were doing, you wanted to get it done just for the sake of checking the box. Okay, I've done my description, check, next thing, right? And we then sometimes tend to do this in our life a lot, when we treat even people and our relationships as checklists. So I say patience. So I'm sharing with you some of the and you cannot read them, but I'll say them out loud. This is one of my maps. Here you have the map, right, with the 4 goods, and each good in each section is divided into positive and negative motivations. So I remember feeling the same before I found my the job I'm at right now. When I was living in Rotterdam, and Manuel and myself were having video calls. We called it, well, mentoring. And I remember one of the things I hated, not being economically independent. I remember that. I remember that as a useful good, for example, I don't like eating fish. I mean, these are some of the things that I wrote, I think, more than 3 years ago. I remember that I loved when mom cooked. That usual food was very nice. I remember that I needed to hear my mom say I was a smart guy, and my dad say he was proud of me. Right? Useful good, pleasant good, recognition, esteem. I remember liking going to mentoring and spiritual direction. Those were very positive motivations. I remember, what do we have here? I cannot read it. What can I share with you? Yes. I remember, giving pleasant good, right? I'm very good at being diplomatic and being politically correct because I was afraid of losing friends or making people think that I was an idiot for thinking certain things. I remember when giving moral good that I would sometimes see myself changing my principles, what I believed in, depending on who I was with, to belong, right? So, well, this is to say that the summary is that we worked a lot. And this is why I remind myself patience. We did maps on job. What was my map in a job in 3 months, 1 year, 5 years, 15 years. We did a map in my life, because at the end of the day, today we focus on, well, you studying business, we're focusing on professional, on your job, as a career, as a calling. But this is applicable to anything, right? Thinking of your daily life, what motivates you. At the end, everything comes together, right? So we made a diagnosis of the different, actually this is a map where you can see job, career, calling, higher calling, decision making, for looking for a job, for once I had a job, what was I going to do 5 years later. And when I see this, if I'm sitting right there, I would think, holy guacamole. I mean, I need to do so many things. I mean, description and my life, and I say again, relax. Let's take it easy. Breathe. But examine yourself. When you go on the description of what motivates you, I try to do this every night. Examine yourself on your day. Examine yourself when you wake up. Why do I wake up? What's making me get out of bed today? Going to class, getting good grades, seeing my friends, going partying later today, you know? Which in the end of the day is, you wake up to love and receive love. If that's the summary, our relationships. So my question is, what is the quality of my relationships? My close friends, my parents, my professors, my project group, my family. And then how do I go to bed? How much have I loved today? How much have I been loved? With Manuel, you see that in the map, everything can be summarized in ways of looking for love compared to the fear. And we'll see that in the diagnosis as well. Because myself, after talking to Manolo for more than 5 years and 3 years working with the maps and defining and diagnosing and decision making and writing again, I still see myself like a baby, crawling. I mean, there are many things you need to look into, and this, for me, is very therapeutical. Stop, relax. We could look at so many things. Let's start with the little things. This is something that reminds me of one of, well, Manuel works with my dad's company, and they call it the revolution of the small things, right? Let's start with the little things. Because when we start looking at giving moral good, what is that, Pablo? I mean, I have enough with helping my sister go to school, right? And I think sometimes it's way more simpler than what we tend to see. I like this picture. This picture reminds me of some chats that it's a podcast from Fabio Rossini, who's a Italian. He talks about how to know what decisions to make, how to discern what's reality, what is our reality. And he talks about our first evidences. So he uses a metaphor that I like very much. Let's say our life is a room, okay? You're outside. You have a room with a door, and the sun is lighting that door. When you open that door, what are the first things that light up in your life? What are your evidences? Today, your evidence is that you're a student of business management. Your evidence is that you were born and raised here. You cannot change that. Your evidence is that, in my case, I'm the oldest of 5. Your evidence is that I have a heart problem. And when I say heart problem, think of any limit that life has given you. My evidence is that my grandmother needs help at home when I'm back from school. My evidence is that I need to help economically my family. My evidence is, what are your evidences, right? Because I think sometimes we tend to run away from reality, right? I remember not long ago, a couple months ago, I'm working, and yes, I tell everyone I have a great job, but I was struggling with some projects, and I said to myself and to some friends, I'm going surfing to Bali for 2 months, you know? What are my real intentions? Is it I need to relax, rest, or escape in reality, right? Because I think many times we want to escape reality. What is our reality? When we describe ourselves, what is our reality? Where are you in life that you cannot deny? And by surfing in Bali, translate that to anything, right? If my evidence is that I'm a student and I need to go study, go to my exams, because I want to then get a job, because then I want to grow as a professional, because then I want to help society with impact projects, and then I want to help my family economically. Well, today your evidence is that you need to study. And escaping from reality might be, I'm not even going to say that crazy party at someone's house or paellas, right? I've been to paellas as well, the year that I spent in UPV. And escape from reality many times is closing, getting, I don't know how to say this, but inside ourselves with different things, right? With different anesthesia, phone, Instagram, social media. Even you can alienate or escape from reality with technically good things. I mean, what's bad about going surfing in Bali? What's bad about playing that soccer game with your friends, right? Well, if my reality right now is being a student. Now, this is not easy, but the description exercise helps us write down and look at what we are and what motivates us. And that's a very good first step, because how many people think they know themselves properly? And I say all the dimensions. We all ask ourselves even spiritual questions. What happens after life? Is there life? Is there a God? Can we reach global peace? Those can be seen also as spiritual goods, right? Goods that transcend ourselves, that even transcend time and space. And we are all that as well. So that's the description, right? Who are we? What motivates us? And this could be said also in description, which is the diagnosis with honesty. Diagnose yourself. That's the next step, right? The next D. I did not have a web app when we started doing the exercises, but I did run through it, right? I'm not a perfect, everything is a 10, everything is 100%. Wow, I'm already done with life. No one can teach me anything else. After years doing these exercises, a lot to work with, and I cannot do all at the same time, right? Little by little, what can I do today? What's the little things that my reality are driving me to? And I want to share with you some of the conclusions of my diagnosis. Things like what I said, right? I was anxious by money and economical independency. I remember not getting proper sleep. This is by the way, when I lived in Rotterdam before finding my other job. I worked in Rotterdam. I worked for 3 different projects for free. And at the end of the day, I remember looking for something that never got there, because it's not like I only wanted to get paid. I was looking for impact, and I remember being in projects that they were selling me something that in the end was not taking place. And in 6 months, I remember I was in 3 different projects, and some of the things that I had diagnosed myself were not helping me. I remember I was afraid of missing plans, FOMO. I don't know if you've heard that in English, fear of missing out, FOMO. Remember this one? I remember being self-centered giving. We're here sometimes, right? What are your real intentions? I think I said it before, right? When doing something. I was afraid of losing friendship for being honest. This is a tough one, because good friendship sometimes means saying the truth. Well, sometimes. It always means saying the truth, right? The truth sometimes hurts. What else? I remember, well, in my case, with my faith, I saw myself that everything I had, I got because I made it. Because of my willpower, right? Voluntaristic thinking. I remember being afraid of showing others my faith, right? Some of my diagnosis. And if you see this one, well, I saw God as a boss, always watching. God is always watching, right? And it's all negative tendency, right? And I remember doing this exercise with Manuel and thinking, okay, well, what else do you have, right? What are the diagnoses we have? Because come on, it's not always, I'm so bad. Everything is so bad. I started being thankful for my economical situation. Actually, my dad financed my stay in Rotterdam. I was happy that where I lived at that time, I could practice sport, that I had many good friends. That's great, that I was receiving pleasant good from, right? I remember enjoying my late night bike rides after work in Rotterdam. This one talks also about what makes me feel good or stay energized. And this is part of our diagnosis too, getting those doses of what makes you feel good. I like cooking for myself. I like going climbing once a week, right? I like, what do you like? I like listening to music. I like a hot bath. I like watching movies with my siblings. And this is very good. Now, the description and diagnosis helps us then understand what makes us happy. And each one of us have their own things. I remember being currently working on the motivations map, which was acquiring moral good. I remember being able then to share my learnings with other group of friends. That made me very happy. This is something that once you start going here, right, the transitive actions of goods, I think we've all felt how because we've all heard humans are selfish, right? Every action is self-centered. If I diagnose myself, sometimes I've seen myself doing things for others that make me happy and I'm not getting anything for them. I think we've all been there. With little siblings, I don't know if you've done voluntary work or helping your parents at home. Let's see, more notes. Yeah, the summary of this one is that this is seen from the fear side, and this one is seen from the love side. And I think it's good. Go find your fears. What am I afraid of? And ask yourself why. I think that's a good exercise in the diagnosis. Why am I afraid? Why am I afraid of being honest to my friends? Because I lose them forever. Sometimes when we hear ourselves out loud, you think, really? I'm going to lose friends forever for saying this after all we've been through? And sometimes the decision is maybe that person is not a real friend. So I encourage you today to go through the description again, go through the diagnosis again with patience and honesty. And let yourself be vulnerable. Let yourself be different than society's standard, right? We go into Instagram, everyone's having a great life. TikTok, life is a lot of fun. People are becoming famous with their dances and their music, right? On TV, on YouTube, I remember watching a vlogger, Casey Neistat, I don't know if you've heard of him. And he also said it as well. Many people who vlog their life. I did my own vlog for some time as well, for a year. And I remember that being in front of the camera was so easy. To smile, be happy, and yo, what up, right? Welcome to Rotterdam, or this is New Year's in Innsbruck. I remember with my friend, and life is great. And you watch a 10-minute vlog, 10 minutes, which today we cannot hold our attention for 10 minutes, and everything is great. And I remember thinking, well, a day is 24 hours. 10 minutes of someone's day, not even say an Instagram picture, what is it? An instant of someone's lives. Not even a second. And by those snapshots, it's crazy how our brain works, right? We make an image of ideal life, of reality that is so far away. And we need to stop and think and be honest with ourselves and be patient and describe, write down, okay, this is very nice, but what makes me happy? What is my experience? Where have I found happiness? And by happiness, I'm not saying euphoria, which is also good. Euphoria is very chemical. I mean, it's called dopamine, endorphins, adrenaline. That's what euphoria is. But what is happiness, though? Right? I don't know what happiness is. But I know what happiness is. Happiness is not. Happiness is not being afraid. Happiness is not anxiety. Happiness is not being in a rush. Happiness is not losing peace of mind and peace of spirit. That's not happiness. And we see it a lot. We find ourselves out there. Now, when do we find ourselves being peaceful of mind, right? Not being in a rush, not being anxious. And this is the last D. Decide. And decide with freedom. This is a short sentence that I think has so much in it. Are we free? Are we free from choosing? Because sometimes we see ourselves. I remember these days, for example, I work from home now, and around 11 a.m. I know that it's good for me to go outside and go for a walk. I even block my time in the schedule, stop work, no one actually calls me, and I go down and walk around. And I remember getting angry because one day I was going for the walk, and I always open a drawer in the kitchen where they have the bread with sunflower seeds, rosquilletas. And I like going out, with my package. And I remember the day that I didn't find that, I got so frustrated. Where are my rosquilletas? I cannot do my walk without this. Am I free from that? I mean, even with those little things, we know we're not free because once, for example, in my case, I couldn't find my doses, right? You feel like your body is in a cage. What is keeping us from deciding freely? I think that's a tough one. So, here we go, decisions. So, after going through the diagnosis, and I also made some maps of where I wanted to be, what life was going to be like, and I'm showing today decisions for a job after 5 years, I think. Yes. Right. And yeah. I remember I said, okay, I'm not economically independent, right? I'm receiving useful good from that, and I hated it. That was something negative that I found. But in a way I thought, well, I'm gonna live like that all my life. And I remember making a finance plan then. Okay, fine. You're not economically independent. Put yourself a date. When do you want to be, and what are you gonna do about it? Right? Because sometimes I think we get frustrated about stuff and never decide. Let's go, let's do. But before deciding, we need to be honest with ourselves and accept that I hated not being economically independent. And I think that's a very typical situation when being a student. I remember I decided to call mom and dad. I lived away, right, in Rotterdam once a week, and say thank you after receiving a compliment, for example. I remember having an hour of preparation before mentoring every week, going to spiritual direction. I wanted to learn Dutch, play the piano and go climbing, right? And what else? So many things here. Cook, sleep siesta once a week, right? Adjust waking up time if I was going to get late. What else? Grab a beer with friends once a week. Give useful good. I remember, yes, in terms of giving moral good, for example, being better friend of others, how? Listening with patience. I remember that in terms of moral good, sometimes, well, I don't know about you, but my experience going through the definitions, and sometimes when talking to Manuel, right, everything might seem, in my experience, very theoretical, right? We're talking Maslow, expert, we're talking philosophy of the ancient Greeks, and what is virtue, and what is motives, and listening. Go listen to someone, right? When you go to a friend, have you asked him or her, how was your day, how was your week? And listen with patience. I found myself many times, right, when waiting, I remember asking, how was your day? So that person would then ask me how was my day, and I could tell you about my day, right? Reading some spiritual books, 15 minutes a day, for example, in terms of spiritual goods. Have a moment of prayer for my friends, preparing meaningful conversations. So these were my decisions. I think actually the one that I'm showing you is more around life, but this in terms of my job, if we go, yeah, here it is. And sorry, I wanted to mention as well that at the end of the day, in terms of the KPIs, because these are your decisions, and then you measure how were your KPIs of life. And it's very helpful for me to see the fruits of my decisions. So once you've decided, okay, what you're going to do in the different aspects of life, what are the results of what you've done? Are you happier? Because out of the fruits that you get out of those KPIs, that's how you measure how good your decisions were. The better fruits you get from your decisions, the better the decision was, actually. And it's fine, we'll get it wrong. I mean, the exercise is very ambitious, right? But at the end of the day, you start little by little, the little things, right? I think I'm not talking about. I remember one day I was driving to Murcia, and I heard on the radio an interview with a guy who said, yeah, we're doing an impact event. We have 900 refugees today here with us, this and that. And I thought, wow, I want to be someone like that when I grow up. And the woman who was making the interview, the journalist asks, so how old are you? Yeah, I'm 25. And I saw myself driving. I love Murcia, okay? But in the middle of the desert of Jumilla, what am I doing with my life? There's a guy with 900 refugees saying, we're gonna change the world! And I'm there, doing nothing, driving. And I remember feeling anxious, right? Looked at this and said, how am I gonna change the world with this? But this is what led me to my story today. I mean, I was in Boston. I love doing photography. I'm not an expert, but I wanted to show off a bit now that I have an audience. This is a picture in Boston, right? In Boston, where I was studying and going to house parties and living American life. And when people ask me, hey, Pablo, how is the USA? I say, have you watched Project X? Yeah, the movie with that's the US. But then I moved to Rotterdam, and I'm working with big family businesses without a salary, working for the love of working. And I remember that I was not taking care of myself. You know, I had very few self-esteem, and then started working on the map and what are my decisions and making my CV. I remember that was actually one of my decisions in terms of acquiring useful goods, my CV, my list of contacts, talking to people, asking for my salary, asking for my conditions. And at the end of the day, I saw myself having an interview with this person, Henrik, the owner of Blend Hub. And I got there thanks to some luck. I mean, I'm not in control of everything, but once the opportunity is given to you, then I was ready to take it. And I remember talking my salary conditions. I had never had a salary conversation before. I remember talking my conditions about the impact of the project. And I remember, and this is how I ended up in Murcia. After 3 months working there, and thanks to the work I had done of knowing myself, diagnosing myself, understanding what motivates me, what gives me energy, who am I, valuing myself, growing in self-esteem, growing in understanding what are the higher goods that I'm looking for, after the Christmas dinner in Blend Hub, this is the company, I went to Henrik and said, you wanted to be this year the operational excellence year, right? That was in 2018. I told him, I'm going to take care of that. And my job title was created. It wasn't something that existed in the company. And I'm proud of that. I went to Henrik, completely authentic with about my ambitions, and you find out that people want to help if you ask for it. And that, I think it's sometimes about accepting that we cannot do things by our own. And then ended up taking care of our 5 factories around the world, 2 in India, Colombia, Mexico, right? I'm global manager of making sure every process inside production, raw materials in, final product out is carried out the same. And I did industrial design that had nothing to do. Industrial design is about designing product. I knew CAD, how to draw a little bit, worked on design thinking specifically. But at the end of the day, or at least I feel disconfident about it because I started learning what are my limits and what are my virtues, right? So who are you as well? And decide in consequence. And I valued a lot, and this is something that I found that I was given, having a great boss, for example. And I encourage people, you've heard this a lot, don't look for a job, look for a boss. I don't know if you've heard that. I completely agree. At the end of the day, you're not looking for a salary, because why did I like my boss? The man who taught me measure, record, analyze, action, the master Jedi. Because at the end of the day, you realize the bigger goods are the ones that really fill your life. I'm not saying we need to ignore the salary and ignore the job conditions and the fact that I work for 8 hours a week, and I'm lucky enough to have a very flexible timetable. I work from home now. I moved to Valencia. So out of everything I've said and all the things that we could do and work, and I wanted to give the last 30 minutes on purpose for questions, because honestly I want to say so many things and talk about so many cool stuff that we've done, but at the end of the day, it's you and it's your lives. And if I can give you some advice, I remember accepting the fact that I cannot do it in my own was a very difficult one. And ask for help. Who are your mentors? And by mentors, I think, at least myself, I remember thinking, a mentor is Albert Einstein, right? I need to find my Albert Einstein. Your dad, your mom, your teacher, your older brother, your older cousin. Who's someone around you that has something you don't have? Go talk to that person, ask for help. I couldn't have gotten here on my own. Today here, I think we are lucky to have Manuel for showing us in terms of the motivations map and help us go through it little by little. And I encourage you, go ask for help. Actually, Manuel has told me that once the course is done, he's also available for answering questions and looking at your maps. It's gonna, the map at the end, I know that you're writing down a lot of things that are very personal. I mean, some of the things I censored actually from my maps because it's very personal. I trust Manuel's confidentiality as well in terms of professional secret. I'm saying this to encourage you actually, because for me it's gotten me where I'm today. Do not be afraid and try it out. Try out listening and looking in the eyes at someone. If I can give you one that's been tough for me is understanding transitive moral good. I encourage you to do this. I think we'd be a better world if we would all listen a little bit more. And listening is not only with our ears, right? Also by looking. Make sure the other person feels that he or she is being heard. Because sometimes it's all we need. And that's actually giving moral good. Right? Instead of giving advice and what you should do. And then the last thing, I've learned little by little, and it's taking me, and I'm not done, but this year especially, being very thankful, because at the end of the day, my experience, being honest, everything I have, what I'm wearing today, the car that I drove today to get here, my job, my family, my economical situation, my health, I don't control any of that. I put the means, I make my decisions to try my life, but when you realize that it's not in your hands, at least I live with way more peace. And that's being thankful. In my case, I give thanks to God. And I think we all realize, even if God is not there, that the things you have in terms of your family and where you've grown up, that you're very lucky today sitting down here. Not because you're listening to me, but because of your whole situation, the country you live in, the socio-political context, right? So, after all this, I encourage you, Manuel is here for us as well at the end of the course to go look at the map, because at the end of the day, yes, you give the project, the document, everything's done and forget about it. Well, for me, it's been a life project after I met Manuel and we looked at all these things. So, yeah, I encourage you to do that. And this is it. So, thank you.